It's been 30 years since my husband passed, and I finally went back to that old farm. And when that rusty gate creaked open, I discovered a secret, a lie my husband had painstakingly buried for 3 long decades. A painful truth that turned my whole world upside down. And in that very moment, my own flesh and blood, my sons, they showed up. I thought they'd be there to comfort me, to share my grief, but, well, that's not how it went. One thing after another, it all just piled on, and it wore me right down to the bone. That's when I, Abigail Sawyer, a 72-year-old retired history teacher from Denver, had to face the lies head on and find a strength I never knew I had, just to stand up for what was right. If this story of mine resonates with you, I hope you'll share it with someone who might need to hear it. More importantly, I'd love to hear from you. Share your own stories with me, with all of us listening. It's in sharing that we women can find our strength together. The crunch of gravel under my tires was the only sound breaking the heavy silence of the late afternoon. My knuckles were white, gripping that old, worn steering wheel. My eyes narrowed as I looked ahead at the familiar red dirt road winding its way between 2 rows of ancient pine trees. 30 years, 30 long years since I'd last set foot on this, and I had sworn on a stack of Bibles that it would be the last time. But vows, like memories, can be fragile things. Paul had been gone for 6 months, and with his passing, the vow we made together had dissolved into thin air. Now it was just me, a 72-year-old widow returning for one final task, to wipe this piece of land off the map of my life for good. The tall wrought iron gate appeared at the end of the road, rusted and weary from seasons of sun and rain, looking like an old skeleton guarding a tomb. I put the car in park, feeling a shiver run down my spine even though the late summer Arkansas air was still thick and warm. I stepped out, my legs a little shaky on the hard-packed earth. My hand touched the cold, rough iron of the gate latch. A padlock the size of my fist, covered in a crust of dark brown rust, hung there like a heart that had stopped beating. Useless. Paul and I had locked it the day we left, a symbolic gesture to seal away the past. But now, I could see the chain was just draped loosely through the bars. The lock was nothing more than a symbolic ornament. A knot of unease began to tighten in my stomach. I gave the gate a gentle push. With a low groan, the heavy gate swung inward, offering none of the resistance you'd expect from something abandoned for 3 decades. It should have been seized up by roots and vines. I should have needed the strength of a man to even budge it. The driveway leading to the farm wasn't an overgrown trail choked with weeds like I'd imagined. No, it was clear, the edges neatly trimmed. There were even fresh tire tracks in the damp earth, and they sure didn't belong to my old sedan. Someone had been here. Someone had been coming and going. Just need to take a few pictures for the real estate agent, I muttered to myself, my own voice sounding small and lost in the vast quiet of the valley. Sign the papers next week, and it'll all be over. But my heart was hammering out an unsteady rhythm, a beat of anxiety, not relief. It was right here, 30 years ago, that I discovered Paul's first secret, a secret that had torn my innocence to shreds and put our marriage on ice for years. We had made a deal. We had made a vow. We would leave Havenwood, leave Arkansas, start a new life in Denver, and never, ever speak of or return to the place that held his betrayal. I drove slowly down the lane, every foot of the journey stirring up a layer of dusty memories. There was the old oak tree where we hung the swing for the boys. There was the creek bank where Lucas and Nathan used to skip stones. Everything was still there, but it all felt painfully foreign. I had spent the second half of my life trying to forget this place, treating it like a flawed chapter in a book that needed to be torn out. Yet now, coming back,
I saw it hadn't died like I thought. It was still breathing. As my car crested a small hill, the scene that unfolded before me made me slam on the brakes. The air went right out of my lungs. Down in the valley, where there should have been a dilapidated farmhouse and collapsing barns, was a small, vibrant, and orderly community. The main house, our house, had been repainted a creamy white, its red-tiled roof glowing under the afternoon sun. Surrounding it were nearly a dozen smaller log cabins built in a neat semicircle. A large, newer workshop hummed with the steady sound of hammers and saws. Further on, a massive greenhouse shimmered, and lush green vegetable gardens stretched out in long rows. And there were people, so many people. A few men were working together on a tractor. Children were laughing and playing in a fenced-in playground. A woman was hanging clothes on a line. I sat there in the car, frozen, my mind a complete blank. What in the world was going on? Had Paul sold the land without telling me? But the deed was in both our names. Could it be? Could these be squatters? Some group that had just taken over this abandoned land and made it their own? A cold anger began to creep in, replacing the initial shock. This was my land. This was the container for my pain. No one had the right to turn it into some kind of utopian summer camp. I pushed the car door open, determined to get some answers. As soon as my feet hit the ground, a woman working in a nearby garden looked up. She was probably in her 50s, with salt and pepper hair pulled back in a neat tie, her face weathered, but her eyes clear and steady. She squinted at me for a moment, and then a flash of recognition crossed her face. She quickly said something to a teenage boy working beside her, and he immediately took off running toward the main house. The woman wiped her hands on her apron and walked slowly toward me. She kept a respectful distance, her eyes watching me carefully. "Mrs. Sawyer?" she asked, her voice low and clear. "Abigail Sawyer?" She knew my name. That knot of unease in my stomach grew tighter. "I am," I replied, trying to keep my voice from trembling. "Who are you, and what is all this?" "My name is Clara Jenkins," she said. "I'm the manager here at Havenwood." Havenwood? I repeated the name Paul had given this place, the name I had tried so hard to erase from my vocabulary. Havenwood was supposed to have been abandoned for 30 years. A sad little smile touched Clara's lips. "Ma'am, Havenwood has never been abandoned, not for a single day." The world tilted on its axis. I had to grab the side of the car to keep my balance. "That's not possible," I whispered. "We left. My husband, Paul, he swore." "Your husband came back the very next month," Clara said gently, but every word was a hammer blow to my chest. "And every month after that, for 30 years, right up until the day his heart gave out. Havenwood was his legacy. A lie. No, not just a lie, an entire lifetime of a lie. All those sudden business trips to Chicago, those engineering conferences in Dallas, the weekend fishing trips with friends I'd never even met. It was all an elaborate charade. Paul had been living two parallel lives, and I, his wife, the woman who shared his bed, hadn't had a clue. The initial rage now curdled into a cold, sharp pain, a sense of betrayal so deep it felt like it was in my bones. He had broken our vow. He had come back to this place, the very land that symbolized his first lie, and built a mountain of new lies on top of it. "I want to go inside," I said, my voice hard as stone. "I want to see what he was doing behind my back." Clara nodded, not a hint of surprise on her face. "Of course, please, follow me. Perhaps you should start where it all began, his office." She led me down the gravel path, past the small cabins where curious faces peeked out from windows. I could feel their eyes on me, these strangers living on my land, in my husband's secret world. I tried to keep a calm exterior, but inside, a hurricane was raging. Our farmhouse, on the outside, was largely the same. It still had that wide wraparound porch where I used to sit and read on summer afternoons. It still had the heavy oak door that Paul had carved himself. But when Clara opened it, I saw the world inside had been completely transformed. The living room, where my floral sofa and my mother's old piano once sat, was now a functional office. 3 desks with computers were arranged neatly. Steel filing cabinets stood in rows, reaching almost to the ceiling. A huge whiteboard covered one wall, filled with work schedules, weekly menus, and medical appointments. The scent of pine and dried lavender I once loved was gone, replaced by the sterile smell of paper and printer's ink. "This is the command center," Clara explained. "Everything at Havenwood is coordinated from here." "How many people live here?" I asked, my voice sounding foreign to my own ears. 47 at present, Clara replied. 18 veterans, 12 women and their children from difficult situations, and a few families who just needed a place to start over. They all call this place home. 47 people. Paul had hidden the existence of 47 human beings from me. He had been carrying the weight of their lives while telling me we needed to scrimp and save for our retirement. "Where did he get the money?" I demanded. "Paul was a civil engineer. We weren't millionaires." Clara hesitated. "He was very resourceful, ma'am. He used his savings. He started a few small businesses right here on the farm, the wood shop, the organic produce, and he solicited donations from people who believed in the mission." "The mission?" I repeated bitterly. "What kind of mission is built on a foundation of lies?" Clara didn't answer that. Instead, she pointed to a door at the end of the hall. "Mr. Paul's private office is through there. I think what you're looking for is in there. I'll leave you be. Let me know when you're ready. Dinner is at 6. We'd be honored if you'd join us." She left, leaving me alone in the room that was once the heart of my family, now just a stranger's command center. I took a deep, shaky breath, trying to steady myself. I had come here to close a chapter, but it seemed I had accidentally opened an entirely new book, one I never even knew existed. And I had a terrible feeling that the secrets written inside were going to be far more painful than the one I learned 30 years ago. I walked toward the door to Paul's office. My hand rested on the cold brass doorknob. Whatever was waiting for me on the other side, I had to face it. I had lived with only part of the truth for far too long. It was time I knew it all. The door to Paul's office wasn't locked. Of course it wasn't. This was his kingdom, a place where it seemed he had nothing to hide from, except perhaps the arrival of the wife he had deceived. I turned the knob, the metal making a dry click, and pushed the door open. A scent both familiar and foreign hit me. The smell of old paper, polished wood, and a faint, lingering trace of the cherry-flavored pipe tobacco Paul had quit years ago, or so he told me. The room was small, but it was organized with a shocking meticulousness. This was no makeshift workspace for an occasional visitor. This was the nerve center of a life's work. The wall to my left was covered in topographical maps of Havenwood and the surrounding counties, marked up with notes in ink, with red and blue lines tracing completed projects and future plans. The opposite wall held a large bookshelf, filled not with the cheap detective novels Paul read at home, but with heavy tomes on sustainable agriculture, community management, veteran psychology, and timber frame construction. My heart seized in my chest. The man who built this place wasn't the simple civil engineer, the somewhat boring husband I had lived with. This was an architect of souls. But it was the wall behind that solid oak desk that really took my breath away. It wasn't covered in diplomas or awards. It was covered in photographs, dozens of them in simple wooden frames, and not a single one of them had me or Lucas or Nathan in it. They were photos of strangers, Paul beaming with his arm around a gray-bearded man next to a new tractor, Paul wearing a Santa hat, handing a gift to a little girl with pigtails, Paul patiently showing a young man with a prosthetic arm how to plane a piece of wood. In every single picture, he looked so alive, a kind of aliveness I hadn't seen in his eyes for a long, long time. Not since that fateful day 30 years ago when we left this very land. He hadn't just built a community, He had found another family. I sank into his leather chair, feeling the soft material that had been worn into the shape of its occupant. It still felt warm, or maybe that was just my imagination. I'd been living with a ghost, a husband who was only half present in Denver, while his real self was here, at Havenwood, living a full life I knew nothing about. A cold anger began to rise in me, pushing past the pain. This wasn't some quiet sacrifice. This was a choice. Paul had chosen this life over our life. I pulled open a desk drawer. Inside were neatly kept ledgers, supply contracts, and a thick folder labeled Havenwood Mission Statement. My hands trembled as I opened it. The first line, written in Paul's familiar, slanted handwriting, hit me right between the eyes. Havenwood is founded on the principle of redemption, with the belief that every soul, no matter how broken, deserves a chance to rebuild. This is not a place of charity. This is a place of dignity. Dignity. He talked about dignity when he had stripped me of mine with a lie that spanned 3 decades. I snapped the folder shut, the sound of the paper jarring in the quiet room. I'd seen enough. I didn't need to know the details of how he ran his secret empire. What I needed to know now was how to clean up this mess. I came here to sell a piece of land, not to take over a refugee camp. Just then, the roar of car engines from outside cut through my thoughts. Not one, but 2. They sounded different from the clatter of my old car's engine. One was smooth, luxurious. The other was powerful, aggressive. My sons had arrived. The wolves had smelled blood. I stood up and walked out onto the front porch, just as a gleaming black sedan and a massive SUV pulled to a stop in the middle of the yard. Lucas emerged from the sedan, dapper in a charcoal business suit, his hair perfectly coiffed, and that permanent politician smile plastered on his face. Nathan got out of the SUV, tall and imposing in an expensive blue shirt and perfectly pressed trousers. He took off his designer sunglasses, his eyes narrowing as he took in the surroundings with open distaste. "Mom," Lucas said, walking over to give me a quick, businesslike hug, his expensive cologne filling my nose. "You came here alone. I told you that you should have waited for us." "I'm perfectly capable of driving, Lucas," I replied, my voice a little sharp. Nathan didn't hug me. He just gave a curt nod and swept his gaze over the property. "What the hell is this?" he grunted. "I thought this place fell down years ago. It looks like some kind of hippie commune." "This is Havenwood," I said, trying to keep my voice steady, "and it wasn't abandoned." The brothers exchanged a look, then stared at me as if I'd just started speaking in tongues. "Built this place?" Nathan repeated, his voice dripping with disbelief. "Dad hadn't been back here in 30 years. That was the deal." "That was my deal with your father," I shot back. Clearly, for him, that promise meant nothing. Just then, Clara emerged from the main house. She gave me a respectful nod before turning her calm gaze on the 2 tall men before her. "Welcome to Havenwood, Mr. Sawyers. I'm Clara Jenkins, the manager." Nathan looked Clara up and down like he was inspecting a livestock for purchase. "Manager? Who hired you?" "Your father," Clara answered, not flinching. 15 years ago. Lucas stepped in, his voice becoming smooth and diplomatic again. "Ma'am, perhaps there's been a misunderstanding. Our mother, the legal owner of this property, is here today with the intention of selling it. It seems our father had some personal activities that the family was unaware of." He stressed the word personal, as if to reduce Paul's entire 30 years of work to a minor hobby. "I understand Mrs. Sawyer's intentions," Clara said. "However, Havenwood isn't just a piece of land. It's a community, a legally registered nonprofit organization. There are people, lives tied to this place. Lives that can be continued somewhere else," Nathan said bluntly. "We want to see the whole property. Mom, you're coming with us." He didn't ask. He commanded. I felt a surge of anger, but I was also curious to see their reaction. I wanted to see what the sons I had raised would see when faced with their father's true legacy. Fine, I said. Clara, would you mind giving us the tour? Clara nodded. My pleasure. That tour was a collision of two worlds. We walked through the workshop, filled with the scent of fresh pine and the buzz of machinery. An older veteran, a man Clara introduced as John, was meticulously carving a wooden horse. He looked up and gave us a warm, genuine smile. These sell like hotcakes at the farmer's market, Clara explained. It provides an income and, more importantly, a purpose for men like John. Productivity seems low, Nathan commented, already tapping numbers into his smartphone. We could automate this line, mass produce, increase profits tenfold. John heard him. The smile vanished from his face. Next, we went to the greenhouse. Inside, the warm, damp air and the earthy smell of soil enveloped us. Rows of lettuce, tomatoes, and cucumbers grew under hydroponic lights. Clara explained that the greenhouse not only provided fresh food for the entire community, but also served as a form of therapy for residents with post-traumatic stress. Lucas nodded, but his gaze was out the window, toward the shimmering lake in the distance. Prime location, he murmured. Lakeview. We could build a spa and yoga retreat here. Very on trend. I felt a tightness in my chest. They didn't see the people who were healing. They saw square footage that could be monetized. They didn't hear the stories. They just heard the jingle of dollar signs. As we passed the playground, a little red-haired girl ran out and threw her arms around Clara's legs. Clara, look, I drew you. She held up a crayon drawing of a smiling stick figure next to a giant flower. Clara bent down, hugged the girl, and praised her picture lovingly. This is Lucy, Clara told us. Her mom, Jessie, is taking an online course to get her nursing degree. We provide childcare so mothers like her can build a future. What's the overhead on this? Nathan asked, immediately. Lucas, meanwhile, was frowning. The liability is huge if something happened to a child on our property. That was it. I couldn't take it anymore. She's not a child. Her name is Lucy, I said, my voice trembling with fury. And this is not our property in the way you're thinking. This is her home. The air grew thick with tension. Nathan glared at me. Lucas put on his false, placating smile. Of course, Mom, we understand. What we mean is, we have to look at this from a professional standpoint. Dad was too sentimental. He was a good man, but not a good manager. That's when I understood. They didn't just want to sell the land. They wanted to erase what Paul had done, to paint over it with a glossy coat of professionalism and efficiency to hide their own greed. They weren't just disrespecting their father's legacy, they were disrespecting my intelligence. That evening, we sat in the dining room of the main house. Clara had politely invited us for dinner, and I had accepted, mostly because I wanted this confrontation to happen now. The meal was simple, roast chicken, mashed potatoes, and a fresh salad from the garden, but it was delicious. Lucas and Nathan barely touched their food. They were waiting. After the plates were cleared, Nathan made the first move. He set his fork down with a sharp click. All right, let's cut to the chase, he said. This place, however much heart Dad poured into it, is an unsustainable business model. It's a financial liability. It's self-sufficient, I countered. Clara showed me the books. Sufficient at a minimum level, Nathan sneered. It generates no profit. It merely exists. For a prime piece of real estate like this to just exist is a waste. It's an economic crime. Lucas picked up the thread, his voice smoother, more persuasive. Mom, think of the good we could do. We have a plan. We wouldn't just sell it off, we'd develop it. Imagine the Ozark Sanctuary, a premier wellness retreat, a place for successful people to come and recharge. We'd build lakeside villas, a spa, meditation classes. We would create hundreds of jobs for the local economy. And what about the people who live here now? I asked, my voice like ice.
What about the 47 souls? We'd offer a generous relocation assistance package, Lucas said, waving his hand as if swatting away a fly. We'd help them find new housing. It's a win-win solution. A win for who? I yelled, my control finally snapping. A win for you and your bank accounts. Do you hear yourselves? You want to kick out veterans and single mothers to build a playground for the rich? Your father spent 30 years building a sanctuary, a place of dignity, and you want to bulldoze it in 30 days? You're being emotional, Nathan said, his voice completely devoid of sympathy. This is business. Dad made the mistake of letting sentiment get in the way of finances. We're correcting that mistake. A mistake? I shot to my feet, my hands planted on the table. Your father's only mistake was not seeing what heartless monsters his own sons would become. He was trying to atone for one mistake, and you're about to make another one that's 1,000 times worse. Mom, Lucas said, standing up now too, his voice hardening. You don't understand. The world has changed. Kindness alone doesn't pay the bills. Dad was living in a dream. We're living in reality. And in reality, this land is worth tens of millions of dollars. We are not going to let that be squandered on a few sob stories. There we stood, mother and sons, in that warm dining room. I looked into their eyes, the eyes of the boys I had raised, and I didn't recognize them anymore. Greed had eaten away at their souls, turning them into the very thing Paul had tried to escape. I knew in that moment that this fight would have no compromise. This was no longer about selling a piece of land. This was a battle for the soul of Havenwood, and maybe for the soul of my own family, if there was anything left of it to save. And I, the woman who had spent 30 years running, knew that I couldn't run anymore. I had to stay and fight. After that fiery confrontation in the dining room, a cold silence settled over the house. Lucas and Nathan spoke no more words to me. They saw me as a sentimental obstacle to be managed, not a mother to be heard. Their minds were made up, and they weren't going to let anything, not even the woman who gave birth to them, stand in their way. The next morning, their assault began. Not with arguments, but with calculated, cruel actions. They started by setting up a temporary headquarters right in the living room, transforming that once cozy space into a cold command center. Sleek laptops were opened, and a constant stream of video calls began with lawyers, architects, and brand consultants. The sounds of laughter, of children playing, of birds singing outside were drowned out by dry business terms. Asset optimization, clearing the property, high-end market segmentation. They were staging an invasion, and they weren't trying to hide it. Their first move was aimed at the lifeblood of Havenwood, its finances. Nathan, with his corporate raider experience, quickly found the choke point. As heirs with a vested interest, they petitioned the bank to freeze the Havenwood Foundation's accounts, citing a need for an audit and debt restructuring. It was a fatal blow. The farm's operations ground to a sudden halt. The food supply order for the kitchen was canceled. There was no gas money for the little bus that took the children to school. And most critically, the small weekly stipends for the residents, money they relied on for basic personal items, were not paid. I watched as a quiet panic began to spread through the community. Smiles faded, replaced by worried glances and hushed conversations. Clara called an emergency meeting in the dining hall. She stood before the 47 residents, her face calm, but her eyes etched with a mixture of weariness and resolve. "I know everyone is worried," she said, her voice steady. "The Mr. Sawyers have temporarily suspended our financial operations, but this does not mean we give up. Havenwood was built on resilience. We will get through this together." As Clara was trying to rally everyone's spirits, Nathan walked in, followed by a smug-looking man in a suit. "Sorry to interrupt the family meeting," Nathan said, his tone dripping with sarcasm. "I just wanted to announce that, as per regulations, we will be conducting a review of everyone's residency contracts here.
Our lawyer will be in touch with each of you over the next few days. A murmur of confusion rippled through the room. Residency contracts? An older veteran named Sam growled. We don't have contracts. We're a family. Paul said so.
Mr. Paul, with all due respect, Nathan replied, ran this place on sentiment. We will be running it on legal precedent. Everyone will have 30 days to produce the necessary paperwork. It was a poorly veiled threat. They were sowing fear, dividing them, turning them from a community into isolated individuals facing a legal machine they couldn't possibly fight. At the same time, Lucas employed a different tactic, one more subtle and insidious. He used his political connections. 2 days later, a team of inspectors from the State Health and Safety Board showed up unannounced. They swarmed the property, scrutinizing every little detail. A hairline crack in the steps of a cabin, a fire extinguisher in the workshop that was a few days past its inspection date, a few kitchen utensils that weren't the latest industrial standard. They were all minor infractions, the kind of things unavoidable in a self-sufficient, hands-on community. But in the eyes of the inspectors, they became serious violations. They drew up a report dozens of pages long, and the person ultimately responsible, of course, was the manager, Clara Jenkins. That was their poison dart. They couldn't just fire Clara, but they could create the perfect excuse: gross mismanagement, endangering the health and safety of residents. The accusation was a knife to the heart of Clara's pride and dedication. I found her sitting alone in her office late that night, the desk lamp casting long shadows across her tired face. The inspection report lay on the desk like an indictment. "They're going to use this to get rid of me, Mrs. Sawyer," she said, her voice hoarse. "Once I'm gone, there will be no one left to stand up for these people." "I won't let them," I said, but even to my own ears, my words sounded hollow. I was just one old woman against two aggressive wolves and the entire legal system they had at their disposal. My despair hit its peak the next day. I was walking by the lake, trying to find a moment of peace, when I saw Lucas with another man. This man was dressed in expensive hunting gear and was holding a glossy brochure. Lucas was gesturing across the property, from the lakeshore to the rolling hills. "We'll level that workshop," I heard Lucas's voice drift over the water. "Put a 9-hole golf course there. And along this shoreline, exclusive villas, each with its own private dock." The other men nodded in appreciation. "Excellent, my clients will love it. What about the current resident situation?" "It's being handled," Lucas replied, his voice chillingly detached. "The site will be cleared shortly." Cleared! The word cut through me. They saw these people, these lives, these stories as nothing more than debris to be swept away. I turned and walked away, unable to listen anymore. My heart ached, not just for their cruelty, but for my own powerlessness. Paul had handed me a legacy I never wanted, and now I was watching it being destroyed by my own flesh and blood. I went back to the main house, feeling utterly defeated. I needed something, anything to hold on to. I needed to understand. Why had Paul done all this? Why had he broken our vow, lived a double life, only to leave behind this unsolvable mess? My feet carried me, almost unconsciously, back to his office. I wasn't looking for business papers or plans this time. I was looking for a more personal answer. I started going through the drawers I had ignored before, the ones filled with odds and ends. An old pipe, a few Zippo lighters, a Swiss Army knife. And then, in the bottom drawer, under a stack of old maps, I found it. A small, unlocked wooden box, covered in a thick layer of dust. I had seen this box once before, 30 years ago. It was the box Paul had hastily hidden when I'd walked in on him in his study in our old house here at Havenwood. It was the day I had discovered his first secret, the one about the other woman. In my anger and pain that day, I never asked what was inside.
I just gave him an ultimatum. Get rid of everything connected to that past, or I was leaving. We left Havenwood, and I assumed the box had been thrown away. But it hadn't. He had kept it. He had kept it for 30 years. My hand trembled as I lifted the lid. There was nothing of monetary value inside, just a stack of old letters tied with a faded ribbon, and a few small keepsakes, a pressed browned flower, a creased movie ticket stub, and a black and white photograph of a smiling young woman, her hair blowing in the wind. It was Mary, his first wife. This time, I didn't push them away. I sat down in Paul's chair, untied the ribbon, and began to read. Letter by letter, in a soft, looping script, a story I had only known half of unfolded. A story of a passionate young love, a hasty marriage, and the birth of a baby girl. But then came the struggles, the selfishness and ambition of a young man who didn't want to be tied down. Paul had left. He had abandoned Mary and their newborn daughter to pursue his career, to meet me, to start a new life and bury his past. And then I came to the last letter, sent many years later. Mary wrote that she had remarried, that she wanted nothing from him, but she wanted him to know that their daughter, Clara, had grown up to be a strong, kind woman despite the absence of her father. Clara.
The name hit me like a physical blow. I dropped the letters, my whole body shaking. It couldn't be. It was a coincidence, a cruel, terrible coincidence. But then all the pieces started to click into place. The way Paul had found Clara, a woman with no family, working for a small nonprofit. The way he had trusted her, handed his entire life's work over to her. The look of deep paternal affection in his eyes when he spoke of her, a look I had never understood. I looked out the window and saw Clara standing talking with Sam, the old veteran. She had her hand on his shoulder, comforting him. And for a moment, the set of her shoulders, the tilt of her head, the sad smile on her lips, it was the exact image of the woman in the black and white photograph. I sank to the floor, the open wooden box beside me. I couldn't breathe. Paul's sin wasn't just a lie. It had a face, it had a name, and it was living right here among us. Havenwood wasn't just a place of atonement. It was a father's desperate attempt to be near the daughter he never had the courage to claim. And in that moment, I realized something even more horrific. Lucas and Nathan, they weren't just trying to destroy a community. They were trying to evict their own half-sister from the home their father had built for her. The anger in me was no longer a slow burn. It was a raging inferno. I had found my weapon. It wasn't the law, and it wasn't money. My weapon was the truth. A truth that could save Havenwood, but might just burn what was left of my family to the ground. And I, in that moment, was ready to light the match. I sat there on the cold office floor for what felt like hours. Time seemed to stop. All around me were the shattered pieces of a life I thought I knew. The wooden box lay open like a wound, revealing the letters, the mementos of a buried love. But they weren't just evidence of a simple betrayal anymore. They were the key to everything. The key to Paul's 30-year lie. The key to Havenwood's existence. And most importantly, the key to Clara's identity. My emotions were a tangled mess. At first, it was a tidal wave of rage. Rage at Paul for deceiving me, not just once, but for a lifetime. He had built our marriage on a false foundation, let me live in blissful ignorance while he carried this monumental secret. But then the anger began to subside, replaced by a deep, profound sadness, a bitter kind of empathy. I pictured Paul returning to this place alone, carrying the weight of his guilt not just for me, but for a daughter he didn't dare to acknowledge.
I pictured him silently building Havenwood, a way to create a world where he could do the right thing, a world where he could be the father he never was. It didn't excuse what he did, but it made me understand him, perhaps more than I ever had in all our years together. And then my thoughts turned to Clara, the strong, steady woman who carried an entire community on her shoulders. I saw her now through a completely different lens. Every action, every word took on a new meaning. Her dedication wasn't just the loyalty of a manager. Was it some unconscious connection, some invisible thread of kinship that had kept her here? My anger flared again, but this time it wasn't aimed at Paul. It was aimed directly at Lucas and Nathan, my sons. They were plotting to cast out their own sister. They were using the law and money to trample on a legacy built from their father's regret. A legacy, whether I liked it or not, that was created for the sister they never knew they had. Their cruelty was no longer just greed. It was a crime against family. I knew what I had to do. I couldn't keep the secret to myself. It was too big, too important. It could change everything. But who would I tell first? Clara? How could I tell a woman that her entire life, her memory of her parents was a lie? That the man she respected as a boss and mentor was actually the man who had abandoned her? Or would I tell Lucas and Nathan, hoping this truth would awaken some shred of decency left in them? I chose the latter. They were, after all, my sons. I had to give them a chance, one last chance to choose the right path. I gathered the letters and keepsakes, placing them carefully back in the box. I clutched the wooden box to my chest, feeling the weight of 30 years of secrets. That evening, I called for a family meeting, just the three of us. They walked into the dining room, the scene of our fiery argument just the day before. Lucas had his polished veneer back in place, but there was an impatience in his eyes. Nathan didn't even bother to hide his annoyance. "What is it, Mom?" Nathan asked bluntly. "We're busy. The lawyers need more information." I didn't answer. I just quietly placed the wooden box on the table, right between them. Two sets of eyes stared at it, confused. "What's this?" Lucas asked, frowning. "Your father's past," I said, my voice eerily calm. A past that even I only just learned the full truth of. I opened the box. I took out the black and white photo of Mary and set it on the table. Then I took out the letters. I didn't make them read them. I told them. I told them the story of a failed first marriage, of an abandoned daughter. I spoke in the detached, emotionless tone of a history teacher recounting an event. I just presented the facts. When I got to the name of the baby girl, Clara, I saw a flicker of recognition in Lucas's eyes. He was the smarter one. He was already connecting the dots. Nathan still looked sullen, assuming this was just some irrelevant, sentimental story. "So what?" Nathan said when I finished. "What does any of this have to do with anything? Dad made mistakes. Everyone does. It doesn't change the value of this land." "It changes everything, Nathan," I said, looking him straight in the eye. "Because the woman you are trying every dirty trick to fire, to throw out of here, that's her. Clara Jenkins is your half-sister." The silence in the room was absolute. A silence so heavy I could hear my own heart beating. Nathan stared at me, his mouth slightly agape, his usual confidence completely gone. Lucas sank back into his chair, his face pale. He ran a hand over his face, a gesture of bewilderment I hadn't seen from him since he was a little boy. "No, that's not possible," Lucas stammered. "Mom, are you sure?" "I'm 100% sure," I replied. "This place, Havenwood, it wasn't some random charity project. It was your father's attempt to atone. He built a home for the daughter he never had the courage to claim." I had hoped. For one crazy moment, I had hoped that this revelation would be a splash of cold water to their faces, that it would make them stop. I expected them to feel guilty, to feel ashamed of what they had been doing to their own sister. The silence in the dining room stretched on, thick and heavy like the air before a storm. Lucas sat frozen in his chair, his face pale, his normally sharp eyes now blank, staring at the wooden box as if it were a venomous snake. Nathan was different. After the initial shock, the bewilderment on his face was gradually replaced by a look of skepticism, which quickly morphed into cold calculation. I could practically see the gears turning in his head, not processing the emotional shock, but reassessing the situation, analyzing the new variable, and formulating a counter-strategy. I had hoped, if only for a fleeting moment, that this truth would touch something deep inside them, that the bond of blood, even one they never knew existed, would carry some weight, that they would stop, that they would reconsider. But I had overestimated my sons, or perhaps I had underestimated the power of their greed. Lucas was the first to speak. He didn't look at me. He looked at Nathan, and a silent, understanding exchange passed between them. This changes things, Lucas said, his voice hoarse. Yes, I said, a flicker of hope igniting. It changes everything. It makes things a hell of a lot more complicated, Nathan cut in, and his tone immediately extinguished my hope. He didn't mean morally complicated. He meant legally complicated. He stood up and began to pace, the picture of a predator trapped in a cage. So, legally, he began to analyze, she, Clara, has a claim. She could claim a third of Dad's estate, a third of Havenwood. Lucas looked up, his eyes sharp again. The bewilderment was gone, replaced by the resolve of a politician facing a crisis. We can't let that happen, he said. A messy inheritance battle like this would destroy my career. The media would have a field day. I sat there, stunned. I had just told them they had a sister, and their first reaction wasn't curiosity, wasn't guilt, but how to neutralize the legal threat and protect their public image. Are you not hearing what I'm saying? I asked, my voice trembling with disbelief. That is your sister, your own flesh and blood. A stranger who shares some of our DNA, Mom, Nathan said callously. A stranger who is now standing between us and a multi-million-dollar asset. And worse, a stranger who Dad unfairly favored. He stopped pacing and turned to me, and this is where their performance began. Lucas immediately picked up on the cue. He came over to my side, placing a hand on my shoulder in a gesture of false sympathy. Mom, he said, his voice becoming soft and sorrowful. You're the real victim here. Dad deceived you. He lived a double life, took money and energy that should have been for you and for us, and built this entire legacy for another woman's daughter. You can't let her profit from that betrayal. You don't owe her anything. We are your family, Nathan added, his voice now full of mock concern. Who is she? You have to side with us, Mom, for your own honor, for what is rightfully yours. They were manipulating me. They were expertly twisting my own pain of being betrayed into a weapon against Clara. They were trying to make me an accomplice in their vile plan. And for a moment of weakness, I almost faltered. The pain of Paul's deceit was real. The injustice was real. The thought of Clara, the result of that betrayal, inheriting Paul's greatest creation, sent a wave of bitterness up my throat. We need your help, Lucas continued. As his legal wife, your testimony will carry the most weight in court. You can attest that Dad was not of sound mind when he set up this foundation, that he was obsessed with past guilt. We can invalidate her claim, get full control of Havenwood. Then we sell, and you get the largest share. It's what you deserve. I didn't answer. A lump had formed in my throat. I looked at their two concerned faces, the faces of the boys I had loved more than life itself. But now, all I saw were two wolves baring their teeth. They didn't care about my pain. They were just using it. I need time to think, I finally managed to say, my voice hoarse. They exchanged a triumphant look. They believed they had won. "Of course, Mom," Lucas said. "You take all the time you need. We trust you'll do what's right for our family." They left, leaving me alone in that cold room. But they had made a mistake. They had underestimated me. They thought my pain would blind me, but it didn't. Pain, when mixed with righteous anger, gave me a strange and terrible clarity. They had shown me their true faces, faces more cruel and ugly than I could have ever imagined. My last shred of hope for them died. It was completely gone. They didn't just want a piece of land. They were willing to trample over the living and the dead to get what they wanted. And in that moment, sitting alone amidst my husband's secrets and my son's cruelty, I knew I had no other choice. I couldn't just protect Havenwood. But there was one thing I hadn't told them. Before I had called them to the dining room, I had done something else. I had gone to Clara. I found her in the garden, the place she went when she needed quiet. She was mechanically pulling weeds from around the tomato plants, her hands moving but her gaze far away. I knew she hadn't been sleeping. The puffiness around her eyes and the deep-set weariness in her face told the whole story. I sat down on a nearby bench without a word. I just sat there, in silence. After a long moment, she was the one who spoke, her voice raspy and stripped of its usual steadiness. "So, it was all a lie," she said, her eyes still on the dirt. "My whole life. Your birth was not a lie, Clara," I said gently. She let out a bitter laugh. "But my existence was to him. I was a ghost, a sin to be atoned for from a distance. Do you know what that feels like, Mrs. Sawyer? To feel like you're just someone's penance project?" "No, I don't," I answered honestly. "But I know what it feels like to be betrayed. To find out the person you trusted most was living a whole other life behind your back." She finally looked up at me. In her eyes, I saw no hatred. I saw only a profound, bottomless pain and a terrifying confusion. "What do I do now?" she asked, her voice like a lost child's. "Who am I?" I took a deep breath. This was the moment. "You are the manager of Havenwood," I said, my voice firm. "You are the person who made Paul's idea a reality. You are the person that 47 people here trust and depend on. That is who you are. The rest is just a sad story from the past. You can let it define you, or you can write the next chapter yourself." And then I told her about Lucas and Nathan's plan. I told her about the luxury resort, about how they saw the residents as trash to be cleared away. I didn't spare her a single cruel detail. Clara listened in silence. As I spoke, the personal pain in her eyes seemed to give way to a different kind of fire, the fire of indignation, of a protector. "They will not do that," she said, her voice regaining its familiar strength. "They will try to remove you," I said, "and now that they know you have a claim to the inheritance, they'll be even more determined." "Then we fight," she said, straightening her back, "for this place, for these people." In that moment, an alliance was forged. Not one based on a newly discovered kinship, but on a shared purpose. Between two women, betrayed by the same man, but choosing to face the truth in their own ways. And that is why, when Lucas and Nathan left the dining room after their manipulative performance, I felt no hesitation. The pain of betrayal was still there, but it was no longer a weakness for them to exploit. It had become my strength. I had lived for 30 years with only part of the truth, suffering in silence. Now that I knew everything, I would be silent no longer. I watched them over the next few days. They completely ignored me, believing I was a pawn in their hands. They focused their efforts on pressuring the community and finding ways to undermine Clara. They held loud meetings with their lawyers in the living room, paying no mind to my presence. Not once did they ask if I was okay, if I needed anything.
Meanwhile, Clara, even as she grappled with the shock of her identity and the pressure from all sides, never forgot her role. She still organized the communal meals to keep morale up. She still went from cabin to cabin, listening to and reassuring the residents. And every morning, she still brought me a cup of tea, set it on the table, and asked a simple question. "Do you need anything, Abby?" She had started calling me Abby. And in that simple question, I saw everything. I saw the difference. Clara, the abandoned, illegitimate daughter, was the only one treating me with the genuine care of a child. My own sons, the ones I had given birth to, saw me only as a means to an end. My enlightenment was complete. I had no illusions about them anymore. My path was clear. I would not just fight to protect Havenwood, I would fight to punish them for their greed, for their callousness, and for underestimating a 72-year-old woman who had just discovered the power of the truth. After that fateful night, a strange calm settled over me. The chaos of emotions, the rage, the grief, the betrayal subsided, replaced by a chilling stillness. Like the surface of a lake before a hurricane, my mind became clear and sharp. I was no longer a victim trembling before the secrets of the past. I had become a strategist. Lucas and Nathan, consumed by their own plans, were completely oblivious to this change. They saw my silence and interpreted it exactly as they wanted to, as reluctant acceptance, a surrender to their manipulation. They started treating me with a condescending kindness, making small talk, reporting on the progress with the lawyers as if I were a business partner. They were convinced I was on their side. That was their first fatal mistake. While they were busy laying their traps, Clara and I began our secret counteroffensive. Our headquarters wasn't the noisy living room, but the quiet, warm kitchen late at night, long after the rest of the farm was asleep. Over cups of herbal tea and under the dim glow of the kitchen light, we laid out our plan. "We need proof," I said in a whisper. "Not just accusations. We need undeniable, hard proof. The kind of thing that can destroy them if it comes to that." Clara nodded, her eyes glinting with a cold determination I hadn't seen before. The shock of her identity seemed to have forged her into something stronger. "I know where to start," she said. "Nathan is careless. He thinks no one here is smart enough to understand what he's doing." And so the hunt began. Clara with her intimate knowledge of the farm's operations, and I with my deep understanding of my son's psychology, made a formidable team. And we had silent allies. Mr. Sam, the veteran bookkeeper whom Nathan had dismissed as obsolete, was an expert in forensic accounting. He secretly reviewed all the financial records from the past few months when Nathan had started consulting for his father from afar. "Here it is," Sam said during one of our late-night meetings, pointing to a series of shadowy transactions. "Huge consulting invoices from a shell corporation." I checked. The company is registered in Nathan's wife's name. He's been legally siphoning money from the Havenwood Foundation. Next was Jessie, the single mother studying to be a nurse who had formidable computer skills. She volunteered to help. "The office computer still has the browser history," Jessie whispered, her eyes glued to her laptop screen. "Lucas used the farm's network to access his campaign emails. And here, oh my God, he sent an email to his campaign manager saying the Havenwood issue would soon be resolved and that it would be a jewel in his crown, proving his ability to turn social burdens into economic profit." Every piece of evidence we found was like another bullet in our gun. We copied files, printed emails, photographed invoices. We were building a perfect case. All the while, I played the part of the frail, heartbroken, and easily swayed old mother. I feigned confusion when Lucas explained complex legal terms. I sighed and said things like, "I just don't understand any of this, but if you think it's for the best," to reinforce their belief that I was completely under their thumb. One afternoon, Nathan walked into the kitchen while I was baking. He was uncharacteristically cheerful. "Good news, Mom," he said, grabbing a still warm apple turnover. "Our lawyers found a great angle. We can countersue Clara for mismanagement leading to property devaluation. If we win, we not only get her fired, but we can force her to pay damages. It would nullify any inheritance claim she might have." He said it so casually, as if discussing the weather while eating a pastry I had made with my own hands. I felt a wave of nausea, but I pushed it down and managed a weak smile. "Oh, well, that's good then." "I knew you'd see it our way," he said, patting me on the shoulder before leaving me alone with the smell of butter and sugar and my own disgust. The climax of our charade came in the second week. Lucas and Nathan announced they had arranged a final, important meeting. "This is the last step, Mom," Lucas explained, his voice full of gravitas. "We're going to present Clara with a final offer package, a small severance payment in exchange for her voluntary resignation and a waiver of all claims. If she refuses, we initiate the lawsuit. We need you to be there. Your presence will show a united family front. It will put immense pressure on her." I knew this was it. This was the stage they had set, and I was about to turn it into my own judgment hall. "Of course, dear," I replied, my voice intentionally trembling. "I'll be there." They had taken the bait completely. They were so confident that they invited their own lawyer and a representative from the real estate firm they were in negotiations with to attend, as a show of force and certainty. They wanted to make the meeting a spectacle, a public humiliation for Clara. They had no idea they were walking into their own execution. On the day of the meeting, I wore a dark blue dress, the color of calm and authority. I put my hair up in a neat bun and wore the pearl necklace Paul had given me for our 25th anniversary, a symbol of a marriage I now saw in a completely different light. I was no longer the trembling old woman. I was Abigail Sawyer, and I held the truth. The meeting took place in the dining room, which had already seen so much drama. Lucas and Nathan sat at the head of the table, flanked by their suited lawyers. The real estate agent sat in a corner, watching with interest. Clara sat alone on the opposite side, her back straight, her face unreadable. I took a chair to the side, slightly back, playing the role of the grieving mother forced to witness an unpleasant business. Lucas began, his voice smooth and persuasive, as if he were addressing Congress. He spoke of the future, of sustainable development, of honoring their father's legacy in a way that was appropriate for the 21st century. He never mentioned kicking people out or leveling buildings. It was all high-minded, abstract concepts. Then it was Nathan's turn, with the numbers and the legal threats. He laid out their generous offer, $20,000, a ridiculously insulting sum compared to the value of Havenwood. "Consider it a gift, a recognition of your years of service," Nathan said with condescending magnanimity. "Take it and start a new life somewhere else. Otherwise, the ensuing legal process will be very costly and unpleasant for everyone." Clara listened in silence. When they were finished, she asked only one question, her voice clear and strong. "Are you finished?" Lucas frowned at her defiance. "That is our final offer, Miss Jenkins." "Then it's my mother's turn," I said, and my voice rang out in the silence, no longer trembling, no longer weak. It was strong and full of authority. All eyes turned to me. Lucas and Nathan stared at me in surprise. I slowly stood up. I didn't look at them. I looked directly at the lawyers and the real estate agent. "Gentlemen," I began, "I believe you have been given a highly edited version of this story. You believe you are dealing with legitimate businessmen trying to develop a family asset. The truth, however, is far more complicated." "Mom, what are you doing?" Lucas hissed, trying to keep the smile on his face, but a look of panic was dawning in his eyes. I ignored him.
I walked to the head of the table, and from my handbag I pulled out a thick binder. I placed it on the table with a solid, definitive thud. "This," I said, "is the complete version." The binder sat in the middle of the table, thick and heavy, not just with the weight of paper, but with the weight of the truths it contained. The dining room, which just moments before had been filled with the smug self-assurance of my two sons, was now plunged into a breathtaking silence. All eyes were on the binder, then on me. I could see the confusion on the faces of the lawyers, the curiosity of the real estate agent, and the first flicker of panic in the eyes of Lucas and Nathan. They still didn't understand what was happening, but their predator's instinct told them that the prey they thought they had cornered had suddenly grown fangs. "Mom, don't make this any more awkward than it has to be." Lucas tried to salvage the situation, his voice still attempting to be smooth, but with an undeniable strain. "This is a private family matter. We can discuss it later." "No, Lucas," I replied, my voice cold and decisive. "This stopped being a private family matter the moment you brought lawyers and investors into it, the moment you turned the lives of 47 people into a business transaction. This is now a matter of justice." I flipped open the first page of the binder. It was a financial statement, with Mr. Sam's familiar handwriting circling suspicious transactions in red ink. "Let's begin with the first charge," I said, my voice echoing like a prosecutor in a courtroom. "Embezzlement. Gentlemen, you might be interested to review these consulting invoices for tens of thousands of dollars that my son Nathan Sawyer paid to a company called NCS Solutions, a company, our research shows, that is registered in his wife's name and has no actual business operations. He has, in essence, been using the funds of a non-profit organization to pay his own family." Nathan shot to his feet, his face beet red. "That's a slanderous lie. Those were legitimate strategic consulting fees."
"A strategy for siphoning money from a charity?" I retorted. "The IRS would be very interested in this strategy." Nathan's lawyer was starting to look nervous. He glanced at his client, then back at my binder. I turned to the next page. This time it was a printed email. "Next, premeditated fraud," I said, my eyes locking with Lucas's. "This is an email from my eldest son, future politician Lucas Sawyer, to his campaign manager. I'll quote a small portion. 'The Havenwood issue will be resolved cleanly. We'll spin it to the press as a humanitarian act. In reality, we're turning a social liability into a gold mine, and I'll be the hero who knows how to make a profit from the worthless.'" Lucas's political smile froze on his face. He stared at me, aghast. "Mom, you spied on me?" "You used Havenwood's internet to plot Havenwood's destruction," I countered. "That's not privacy, that's evidence. Evidence that this whole honoring a legacy narrative is a fraudulent sham to serve your political ambitions." The real estate agent was now shifting uncomfortably in his seat. He had come here to broker a lucrative deal, not to be embroiled in a family scandal involving fraud and political conspiracy. "And finally," I said, turning to the last section of the binder, "moral and ethical depravity." I laid out signed affidavits from the residents, detailing the cutting of essential services, the veiled threats of eviction disguised as legal notices. "You have intentionally created an unlivable environment with the sole purpose of forcing these people to leave in desperation. You have preyed upon the most vulnerable, the veterans who served this country, the single mothers trying to rebuild their lives. And for what? For a golf course? For lakeside villas?" I paused, letting the weight of my accusations fill the room. The silence was absolute. The lawyers wouldn't look at their clients. Clara sat perfectly still, her eyes on me filled with a mixture of gratitude and awe. And then Lucas exploded. Not with cunning, but with the pure, raw fury of a cornered animal. "You can't do this to us," he roared, slamming his fist on the table.
We're your sons. You're destroying your own sons' lives for a bunch of strangers and some bastard child Dad hid from you? The room gasped at the venom in his words, but I had expected it. I was waiting for it. I looked him straight in the eye, all traces of maternal affection gone, replaced by cold, hard truth. Really, Lucas? Do you really think of me as your mother? I asked, my voice like ice. Or just as an asset to be managed? In the past 2 weeks, have you once, even once, asked me how I was feeling after learning my husband of 30 years had deceived me? Have you asked if I was sleeping at night? No. You only ask, have you spoken to the lawyers? You didn't see a grieving mother. You saw a roadblock, a pawn to be manipulated. Are you talking about blood? I continued, my voice rising. Clara, the woman you call a bastard, was the only person who brought me a cup of tea every morning, the only one who asked how I was. She, who owes me nothing, acted like a daughter. And you two, the sons I carried in my own body, acted like vultures, just waiting to pick at the corpse. I turned to the lawyers. Gentlemen, you may leave. I don't believe your clients will be needing your services any longer, at least not for this transaction. They scrambled to gather their papers and left as quickly as they could, not wanting to be associated with this for a second longer. The real estate agent slipped out behind them. Now it was just us, a mother, her 2 sons, and Clara. And now, here is my judgment, I said, my voice returning to that deadly calm. I pushed another set of documents across the table, ones I had secretly had a lawyer prepare. This is an irrevocable legal document. In it, you will both renounce all claims of inheritance to the Havenwood farm and all associated assets, transferring full ownership to the Havenwood Trust, with Clara Jenkins as its director for life. Never! Nathan roared. You're insane! I am giving you 2 choices, I said, ignoring his outburst. Choice 1, you sign this, right now. Then you pack your things and leave Havenwood, and you never come back. This binder, I tapped the stack of evidence, will go into a safe, and no one will ever see it. You can go on with your lives, however empty they may be. Choice 2, I paused, looking each of them dead in the eye. You refuse to sign. And at 9 o'clock tomorrow morning, 2 copies of this binder will be sent by courier. One will go directly to the office of Lucas's biggest political rival. The other will land on the desk of a senior investigator at the IRS. You wouldn't dare, Lucas whispered, but there was no conviction in his voice. You misjudged your father, I said, and now you have misjudged your mother. For 30 years, I lived in silence to keep the so-called family peace. But I've learned today that some things are more important than peace. Justice, dignity, protecting those who cannot protect themselves. You have 24 hours. I said nothing more. I turned my back on them, walked over to Clara, who sat in stunned silence, tears streaming down her face. I placed a hand on her shoulder. Then, together, we walked out of the dining room, leaving my 2 sons sitting there, defeated, amidst the ashes of their own greed and arrogance. The chess game was over, and the betrayed mother, the betrayed wife, had delivered the final checkmate. When the dining room door closed behind Clara and me, leaving my sons to sit in the ruins of their perfect plan, a different kind of quiet settled over Havenwood. It wasn't the silence of fear like in the days before, but the silence after a storm has passed, leaving behind a sky of impossible clarity. They signed. At 2 a.m, Nathan brought the documents to my room and placed them on the table without a word, his face an emotionless mask hiding his rage and humiliation. Lucas never showed his face. The next morning, I saw that their gleaming black sedan and massive SUV were gone. They had vanished like ghosts, leaving behind not just a failed business deal, but the final, broken bridge to the mother who bore them. 1 year later, Havenwood is celebrating its summer festival. The sound of country music, laughter, and the smell of barbecue fills the valley. The place hasn't just survived, it's thriving. After we regained control, we used the very contacts Lucas had established to apply for grants and funding, turning his selfish scheme into a genuine community project. I sit on the porch swing, a glass of iced tea in my hand, watching the scene before me. Clara, now the official director of the Havenwood Trust, is on a small stage, addressing the crowd. She speaks of the future, of new projects, of hope. She has found her true self, not as the daughter of Paul Sawyer, but as the leader of the community she loves. I read all of Paul's letters. I cried, I raged, and then I understood. I can never fully forgive his lie, but I've learned to accept the complicated man he was. A man who inflicted a great wound, but spent the rest of his life trying to heal the wounds of others. His legacy, in the end, wasn't betrayal. It was redemption. I have no contact with Lucas and Nathan. I hear that Lucas's political career has stalled and Nathan's company is in some trouble, but I feel no satisfaction in it, just a lingering sadness. They had everything, and in the end, they have nothing, because they never understood the value of things that can't be bought with money. Clara finishes her speech and walks over to me. She sits down in the chair beside me. "Thank you," she says quietly, a phrase we have said to each other many times over the past year. I shake my head, taking her hand. "It's all right. You just keep doing the good work you're doing." We sit there in comfortable silence, watching our community. We are not mother and daughter, nor are we sisters. We are two strangers, bound together by the mistakes of one man. But from that bond, we found something more than family. We found partnership, respect, and a shared purpose. I look out at the garden where the sunflowers, Paul's favorite, are standing tall and strong, facing the sun. I realize that life isn't about erasing the scars. It's about learning to live with them, to let them become not marks of damage, but maps that lead to resilience and compassion. And here at Havenwood, among people as scarred and as beautiful as I am, I have finally found peace. Not the peace of forgetting, but the peace of accepting and of moving on. A year has passed since that day. A year of rebuilding, not just of buildings and projects, but of souls. Under Clara's leadership, Havenwood isn't just surviving, it's vibrant. The negative energy of fear and suspicion has been replaced by a spirit of cooperation and hope. The veterans are no longer social burdens. They are teachers and mentors, passing on their skills to the younger generation. The single mothers are no longer difficult situations. They formed a small cooperative, selling baked goods and crafts, becoming economically independent. This place has truly become a Havenwood, just as Paul had named it. Today is the first anniversary of Paul's death, but we don't call it an anniversary. We call it Legacy Day, a day to celebrate, to be grateful, and to look forward. The whole valley is alive with laughter, the twang of country music from an old speaker, and the rich smell of barbecue smoke. I sit on the same porch swing I sat on that first day back. But the woman sitting here today is completely different. I'm no longer a bitter widow returning to erase the past. I am a keeper of memories, the quiet heart of this community. I chose to stay, not out of obligation, but because I found my home. Not in the brick and mortar of Denver, but here, among people who share no blood with me, but share the same heartbeat of resilience. I spent many long nights rereading Paul's letters, not to reopen old wounds, but to find understanding. I pieced together the man I loved, not as a saint or a sinner, but as a complex, contradictory human being. A man who made a terrible mistake out of youthful weakness and spent the rest of his life building something magnificent out of his regret. I haven't forgiven his lie. Perhaps I never will. But I have learned to accept it as a part of him, and I have forgiven him, because I know my own soul deserves peace. Clara walks over with 2 glasses of iced tea with lemon and mint. She hands one to me and sits in the armchair beside me. We've stopped trying to define our relationship. She doesn't call me mom, and I don't call her daughter.
We are simply Abby and Clara, two strangers thrown together by fate, steering a ship through a storm together. That is enough. That was a beautiful speech, I say, nodding toward the small stage where she just finished speaking. Clara smiles, a genuine smile that has replaced the constant look of worry she wore a year ago. I just told the truth, that a legacy isn't what's left to you, it's what you build together every day. We sit in a comfortable silence, listening to the symphony of life around us. I have no contact with Lucas and Nathan. They chose their path. Occasionally, I'll see a news clipping about Lucas, about a political career that has mysteriously stalled. I heard Nathan's company ran into some trouble with the IRS. I feel no victory, no I told you so, just a quiet sorrow. They were like magnificent ships with no compass, destined to drift forever on an ocean of ambition without ever finding a safe harbor. Their greatest punishment, I realize, isn't what I did to them. It's that they have to live the rest of their lives as themselves. Do you ever regret it? Clara asks suddenly, her gaze deep and searching. I know what she's asking, about the decision to sever all ties with my biological sons. I think for a moment, looking out at the garden, where the sunflowers, the flowers I planted to remember the good parts of Paul, stand proudly facing the sun. I don't regret the decision, Clara, I answer slowly, but I have regrets. I regret that I didn't teach them better. I regret that I didn't see how lost they had become. But regret the decision? No. Because on that day, I wasn't just protecting Havenwood, I was protecting my own soul. Sometimes, to save the best part of yourself, you have to be willing to cut away the parts that have rotted, no matter how much it hurts. A little red-haired girl, Lucy, runs up to us, a freshly picked wildflower in her hand. For Abby, for Clara, she says, beaming. I take the flower, feeling the softness of its petals and the warmth from her small hand. This is it. This is the legacy. Not money or land, but the smile of a child, the peace in a veteran's eyes, the second chance for a single mother. I realize that life isn't a journey to find perfection or erase the scars. It's a journey of learning to live with them, of learning how to turn the barren ground of our pain into a garden where the flowers of resilience and compassion can bloom. And here at Havenwood, among these imperfect, scarred, and beautiful people, I have finally found my peace. Not the peace of forgetting, but the peace of accepting, of forgiving, and of turning my face always toward the sun.